Hi, everybody. It's episode 516 of PodQuest.
Hey.
It is July 3rd, 2024. I am Chris. With me is Druten.
Hello.
And Walnut.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you are here, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm here. Next week, I'll be walking.
Hey,
Like,
there you go.
We record you'll be walking, or just in general you'll be able to walk again?
I mean, I'll be able to walk again.
Good job.
I won't be walking while we record, but
I don't know, you get one of those desk treadmills and just...
it's just called a treadmill.
Well, no, they have like those like ones that it's smaller and more contained and fits under the desk when you're not using it. So it doesn't have like the bars or anything on it. It's just the like a smaller treadmill part to walk on.
Yeah, I don't like that. I'd fall off. I would.
Yeah, you would. That's
a lot of the reason why I don't like walking on treadmills in general is because they're so constrained.
And
like,
they're weird at first too. Like you kind of have to be on one for a little while before it even starts to feel remotely normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I get you. I was never a big fan of the treadmills either. I preferred like the elliptical.
Ellipticals are way better.
Yeah, like your legs are kind of like, I mean, they're not stationary because they're moving, but like you're not lifting them out of those things. So like you have that more stability.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, it's a little bit harder. Like you turn up the tension or whatever, resistance. Resistance, I think, is the word I was looking for.
No, it would be the elevation for treadmill. Oh, you're talking about ellipticals. Yeah, resistance and elliptical. I'm only half paying attention.
Thanks, jerk.
Well, okay, at least it's half.
I mean, that is more attention than you usually pay to things. I'll give you that. So,
Yeah.
How you guys doing other than you'll be able to walk again in a few days?
I'm doing.
Drew, how about you?
I'm all right. I'm a little sore. I went to friggin' Topgolf on Sunday and kind of hurt my back.
Overdid it at the Topgolf?
Yep.
Did you hit a home run?
No.
I don't know what they call them there. Because, like, they're not hole-in-ones, right? Are they bullseyes?
I mean, I don't know. I guess.
I don't know, because, like, that's one, like, it's like targets, right? Like, with different points and shit?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like dartboard targeting, isn't it? Is it where, like...
It all depends. It has a bunch of different games you can play. And I do think in the different targets, the closer you are to the center, the more points it's worth on, like, the basic Topgolf, but
okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I've never been to one. Did you just go to the one up in Mount Laurel?
Yeah, I was at the one over in Philly.
I didn't know there was one in Philly.
Mm-hmm. It's like way out northeast Philly.
Oh, okay. That's why I didn't know it was there.
Yep.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, I had a busy week, and too. We did went out to too many games on Saturday, and then drove up to Newark to see Kevin Smith do a Q&A on Sunday, and then last night we went and saw Joan Jett and Alanis Morissette.
Fucking like everyone was at that show apparently.
Yeah, like I realized that as we were there. It was very good. Like both of them still have it.
That's good.
Like I saw Joan Jett like 2006 when they were doing those like 4th of July concerts at Cooper River, the free ones before the fireworks.
Okay.
And like she was good there, but like also that was like a free like general admission like middle of the day concert, so like it wasn't really anything special. Like this was definitely better, even though we didn't have the best seats. We were back in 204 and kind of like in the middle, so we didn't have a very good view of the stage because like everyone had like the screens and stuff behind them, and we couldn't really see what was on the screens because of like the sides of the stage blocking it. But still sounded good. But man, that place is... They've done some weird stuff to that place. They had like they added that restaurant that's like a VIP lounge now. It was at the Freedom Mortgage Pavilion.
Right.
I haven't been there since... Rich, when was that that Coheed concert? I know it was before COVID that like we did not go together, but we were both there. You were with like some other people.
It was literally before COVID. It was the summer of 2020 or summer of 2019.
Oh wow. Okay. So that was the last time I'd been there, and I don't think they had that like VIP lounge. I'm not sure if they were doing like all that stuff on the lawn either, with like the like reserved lawn sections or whatever it is.
That's weird. Why would you want to reserve lawn sections?
Well, so like
there's seats.
Yeah, so they have like the lawn chairs there already in rows, and it's in like the front of the lawn, so like you're guaranteed a spot like near the front without having to get there early and like be on the lawn for hours.
Mm-hmm.
it's still weird. And they also have like lounge seats now between section, like the 100 section and the 200 section, kind of in the center.
Huh.
Yeah, like it looks like they might have wait service for them. And then yeah, they just have like couches basically like built into them. It was kind of weird, and I imagine incredibly expensive. But yeah,
Guys, I'm officially a YouTuber now.
haven't you officially been a YouTuber for like 4 years?
No, I did a thing that happens to every YouTuber. I lost an episode of content.
Oh, did your video crash or something?
I don't entirely know what happened, but I had been very not lazy, but I've been forgetful to deleting videos that I've already edited, and clearing out like my storage in general. And I recorded an episode of Enshrouded. I then went to go and record an episode of Bloodborne, and like 2 seconds into it, as I'm introing, a pop-up comes up over on OBS saying that there's not enough disk space to save the video file.
Oh, that sucks.
So luckily it was only like 2 seconds into the video, so like nothing happened. It was just the intro. So I close out, or I stop the recording and I clear out all of my space. I clear out like where all my video recordings go to when I record, just the basic videos folder. And either the first video just never recorded, or I deleted the video and had already cleared my trash bin when I noticed that it was gone.
Oh, that does actually suck a ton.
Yeah. Luckily, it was only like an hour, and look, it's just me playing fucking video games. So it's not like it really matters. But it set me back time because I then had to re-record. I had to record a new episode over that episode, or in place of that episode.
You said that was Bloodborne?
No, this was. Luckily, it was Enshrouded. It wasn't a game that like really matters for you to see everything that happens, because it's just an open world game, and so like I did some quests, and that was it. But yeah, it sucks, and I lost the content. I'm bummed out.
Yeah, no, that always sucks. Like we've had it happen a couple times with episodes where like something goes wrong. Like you had the one episode a few months ago where I think it was you, Rich, that for some reason like half your audio just disappeared.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it never stopped recording as far as you know, but then like an hour in, all of a sudden there just was nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Drew and I still talked, so I'm just going to put a little note and post it anyway. And I kind of cut it I kind of trimmed out like what would have been the rest of that conversation that wouldn't have made sense and finished the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm officially a YouTuber. I lost an entire episode of content.
Well, congratulations.
And it set me back too, because then I had to record the new one, the other one, and then I edited the videos, and I still needed to record one more video and edit that one, and I've been behind to where I needed to record a fourth edit and post it. I just never did. So like I'm behind today, so tomorrow I have to edit some video, especially my Saturday video, which I haven't even edited yet, I don't believe. And yeah, I'm a little behind, but I'm on par.
I mean, at least it's nothing like crazy where like you now don't have enough time to actually get it done.
Yeah.
So I guess before we actually get started with things, I'm just going to do my semi-annual GDQ is happening right now, and it goes to Doctors Without Borders, and it's a good charity to donate money to.
Nice.
There's been some cool runs so far. Drew, did you happen to check out that Balatro one at all?
I did. I was actually kind of a little underwhelmed with that, to be honest, but
yeah.
It was interesting.
I thought so. I've never watched anyone else play it, let alone at like getting through it quickly. It's kind of nuts how fast those like they were at menuing and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
That's essentially what that ends up being. They're just really, really quick at menuing and knowing the cards without having to look at them. Mm. Well, like without having to look at like the pop-ups. Like when it comes to the jokers and the tarots,
yeah,
they just immediately know looking at it what that joker is and whether or not it's the one they need, and like swapping it, and like really they kind of throw up the same hands almost every time unless they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a lot of like two pairs and full houses because that was just One of the decks they used was all no face cards. Because it was like a 3-deck run, so they did 3 full clears of the game, and I think it was either the second or third deck. There were no face cards, so it was only like a 40-card deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was just they just had a lot of pairs that they just kept throwing, and somehow like they had the right combination of like jokers in the right order that they were getting like here's 2 pair for 90,000 points. I'm like, Jesus.
I mean, in fairness, I have played a 2-pair for like 1,000,000 points before, but that's like beyond clearing a run at that point.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. Like I've had some decent like small hand that I just everything lined up correctly with like the bonuses to be like a very big value. But watching somebody do it just over and over and over again, I'm like, Jesus. And like that quickly, it's like, okay, like this is not anything crazy as far as like speed run goes, but that is just very, very like skilled play of a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I couldn't menu through anything that quickly.
Agreed.
Other than that, it's they've had good games, they've had bad games, they've had bad games that are still fun to watch. They did a couple days ago they had a Sonic 3 and Knuckles run that was just all it was all Chaos Emeralds. So it wasn't so much beating the game as just getting all of the Chaos Emeralds across both games. And I didn't know this in the first level of Sonic and Knuckles. There are enough of the big rings that take you into the special zones that you can basically get all the emeralds in one level.
Huh.
If you're good at the bonus games. And the guy actually, he did fail one of them, but it's because he was trying to do a trick that he basically... Do you guys remember the bonus game in Sonic and Knuckles? It was the one with the red and blue orbs. And it was on like the 3D plane and you had to go around the outside of like the blue orbs, turning them red. And then when they turned red, they would like burst into coins and you had to do that for like so many blue orbs.
Okay.
And then if you hit the red one, it ended the special.
They would only turn into coins if you did the outside.
That's what I said.
I was just making sure, because if you didn't do the outside and you just did them all, they wouldn't turn into coins. But that was also on Sonic 3's minigame.
Oh, was it in Sonic 3 too? I couldn't remember what Sonic 3's was. And I didn't tune into it until they were into Sonic and Knuckles.
Are you sure that was Sonic and Knuckles minigame?
Yeah.
I thought there was like a 3D race thing.
Sonic and Knuckles has 2 different mini games. They have the Sonic 2 style one at the checkpoints, and then they have the giant rings. And the giant rings were the ones that got you the emeralds. And they weren't even called Chaos Emeralds. And I don't know if they were playing a different country version. I forget exactly what they were called in the version they had. But so in that one, if you hit the orange... some of the levels have the orange ones too. And then they also have just the bounces. Like the metal ones that bounce you. Do you hit those, a lot of times you end up going backwards. So this guy was actually able to do one of those maps backwards for like a good portion of it. And it wasn't just going in a straight line and like maybe making a couple turns to go around something. It was jumping between red orbs to hit a blue one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, you've done this a lot. Like, good fucking job. Because there weren't any it wasn't like skips or anything until later in the game. The early part of the game was just him doing those special zones very, very well. It was a good time. I liked it. But yeah, they just hit 500,000 a little bit earlier this afternoon, which is cool. So they're halfway to 1 million for the week.
Nice.
And yeah, goes to Doctors Without Borders, or however you say the French name, because they are a French organization, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah.
You guys
sorry.
you guys like speedruns. I just learned it doesn't look like there's an actual maybe there is an actual category. But there's at least only one. There's a few people on there, I guess. For Mario Odyssey, there's a speedrun category called the Talkatoo percentage. So basically what it is Talkatoo is a character in Mario Odyssey that you talk to, and he will give you the names of moons. And the Talkatoo percentage is you have to do all the moons required to get you to beat the game. just the first ending, not all the moons, just the first ending, the 130 moons that you need or whatever it is to beat the game, only by talking to Talkatoo and doing the moons he tells you to do. And so there's a speedrun category for that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So it basically makes it a Mario Odyssey randomizer for each world, for each moon that you have to get.
That is actually kind of cool. I like some of the like the alt categories that you get for certain games. Like, because like every game has like the NA% and like the glitchless and stuff like that. But when you have like those specialty like the Sonic game, have it like being wrapped around having to get all of the Chaos Emeralds or something like that. Somebody played, what game was Killing Floor, maybe? Killing Time. Killing Floor is a different game. Somebody played Killing Time on a MacBook, on like a 2007 MacBook. And actually at that point it might have been a PowerBook. Because it was the Mac version of the game, and it wasn't a beat the game run, it was a collect all the items run. And just watching somebody like navigate one of those like mid to late 90s first person shooters, where every map almost looks identical to each other, maybe with just like a different color palette, and know exactly where to go and like how to find stuff. And it was glitchless, so they weren't skipping things. They knew exactly what paths to take, and they were doing it very quickly. And their mouse never stopped moving. Like they were constantly like twitching with the mouse to like beats like spinning and stuff. It was a lot. It was a lot to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's that. Rich, what's on the agenda other than that?
Cobb, you went to too many games, like you had already mentioned. I watched Days of Future Past, and Cobb, you saw Kevin Smith do a Q&A thing, like you've already mentioned.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, not a lot this week.
No.
But yeah, so too many games is the thing that happens out in Oaks.
Were there enough games?
You know, I feel like they had less games this year.
Yeah?
No, I'm kidding. There were still a lot of games. I feel like it actually is bigger this year than it was last year.
That makes sense.
But like not like exponentially bigger. Like I feel like it grew a lot in just that 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Because like last year we went out there, we had no trouble parking like near the entrance. This year, Rich, you've been there a few times, right?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been back, but yeah, I've been there a few times.
Drew, have you ever been to the convention center in Oaks?
Yeah, it's been a long time, but I've been there.
So next door to the convention center, they have that like family fun zone thing. It's like an arcade and like go-karts and all that shit. We had to park past that. And the entrance for Too Many Games was on the other side of the convention center from there. So all the convention center parking was completely full. Just to give you like an idea of how busy it was. And like I haven't been to a ton of these, but I want to say this was maybe my fourth or fifth one. And there was never like crowds. Like you could generally just kind of walk down the aisles, get up to tables without any issue. Like there were fucking crowds there this year. And they actually had it split across 5 rooms in the convention center. Like they were actually using the entire convention center, I think, from what I heard. Whereas the last couple of times it's been like 2 or 3 rooms, and like they would usually be like doubling up some of the rooms for different stuff. So like good for them. Like they definitely they're doing something right, it seems. The like vendor room is pretty consistent with what it always is. Lots of people selling like old games because you know that's the shtick there. And then they have a lot of like craft vendors and stuff like you'd find in like an artist alley, selling different stuff. Not a lot of like just straight artwork, but a lot of like actual crafts. A surprising amount of those like weird terrarium things that seem to be getting big now, where it's like a jar or some sort of like glass globe with like dirt and like fake moss or whatever, and then like a little like mini character in there, usually Pokemon. That like they make nice little desk things, but they're usually like $40 for a very small jar of dirt and plastic. And then they had like their little like indie dev area where like there's folks showing off games they're working on, which I'll come back to in a minute. And then the next room over was the autographs with the voice actors, and then all of the card gaming stuff. And then the final room over was the arcade where they had all the game tournaments. They also had a wrestling ring over there, which I don't know if they've ever had that before.
They have.
Okay.
They've done. I think they actually now do wrestling every year.
Okay. I did not. I've never like noticed it any other year, but I don't think it was in the arcade room before. Because I feel like the last couple times I went, the arcade room was like the first room you walk through.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had two other big rooms that were set up for the concerts and for their main stage panels. So
nice.
Yeah, pretty standard like setup as far as things go. I did see one Matthew Papa at the show. He's in from Japan right now. I believe he is already back in not back. He's in LA now for Anime Expo. But he did a panel at Too Many Games about working in Japan. That it actually went really well for him. It was like just a Q&A, and like a lot of people had questions about like moving to Japan, finding a job, like how game development for like smaller companies would work in Japan, like specifically like finding work with them.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a good turnout. And then I also saw Anthony and Nick. They're working on that game that Shahhead's been working on too. The
Kingdoms of the
Dumpster one.
Kingdoms of the Dump. Yeah.
Thank you. I knew you knew it because you talked about it before.
I haven't really talked. I haven't even played it. I have access to the playtest demo. I haven't gotten around to playing it.
So I didn't mean talk about it. I didn't mean talk about it in the sense of like you had opinions. I meant like you've mentioned the game in the past, because I had it wish listed on Steam already from you talking about it. But yeah, they were there actually. They had a couple demos of the game set up, and I don't know if have you seen much of it, Rich?
Yeah, it's like a classic RPG, like a Chrono Trigger style RPG. That's really as much as I know about it, but it's like everything is trash based.
Yeah. Drew, have you seen it at all?
I have not.
It's actually it might be up your alley because it is kind of like a more like traditional RPG. And like Rich said, it's all trash based. Your main character is an actual trash can, and all of his swords are various items made out of trash.
Okay.
Yeah. But it does like the Secret of Mana and like Mario RPG stuff where like different characters have different field abilities. So like when you're in like the open world, sometimes you have to switch which character you're controlling, so that they can use like a special ability to like go up a wall or crush something or whatever's happening. But I didn't get to play it because they actually had a lot of people that were like trying the game out, which was cool. But like it looks really good. Like the artwork looks good, the animations are good, the gameplay looks like it's solid, like turn-based RPG gameplay. And they said it's probably coming out, I think, next year, I believe is what they said. So like
yeah.
They still got a while on it, but yeah, it is looking like a good game for, if you're into turn-based RPGs. Trying to think if there's anything else really of note there. Like I said, it was really crowded, so we didn't like most of the arcade cabinets were constantly taken up. So unless you wanted to wait in line, like you couldn't really like hop on any of like the more well-known stuff. The only games I got to really play any of were Donkey Kong 3 and Donkey Kong. Okay. Because they were just the two games that happened to not have anyone playing that were also not broken on Saturday. But I forgot that they get all those like weird Japanese like rhythm games, like the one that looks like the like a washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame. Like I've always wanted to try those, but there's always so many people waiting to play them, and I have no idea how to play them. So I'd be sitting there for a few minutes trying to figure it out first too.
That's fine. That's fine. Do it. Sit there, wait to learn how to play, and then try to figure out how to play. People can wait. People can absolutely wait. I've had but I've had experiences at Magfest even where there was this one game. It's one of those rhythm games, and it's like 5 pads, and it's 3 on the bottom, 2 on top, and they're all different colors. But I actually like the colors were throwing me off, and there's a way to actually change the colors to where the 3 on the bottom are blue and the 2 on top are white, instead of each of them being separate colors. And so it's like, this way blue is on bottom, and blue middle, left, right, white top, white left, white right. That's all. I was playing, and I wasn't doing good because it was like my 3rd time ever playing. Somebody comes over and starts hitting the buttons to change the colors for it. And I'm like, what the fuck? I walked away. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? And I just walked away, like halfway into the song. Who cares if people are going to give you crap? If you're trying to learn a game and take too long, learn a game and take too long. They can.
No, it wasn't so much that. It was more of I didn't want to sit there and wait to get a chance to then try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Because like I would have been sitting there for probably 20 minutes while like the people that were already waiting would have like had to play.
Yeah.
And like frankly, at that point, I probably would have like at least gotten the gist of it from watching them, and then just been very bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, their arcade setup is usually cool just because they have so many different games between like those more modern like rhythm games and shit like that from Japan, and then like all the classic games they like Mortal Kombat 1 through 4, a bunch of different versions of Donkey Kong, the original Mario Brothers, stuff I'm just drawing a blank on at the moment that we walked by. I think they had like Root Beer Tapper and stuff, so a lot of cool games you could play if you didn't mind just waiting a little while for like people to finish up their rounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a fun one to go to for a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like going out there, wandering around for like the afternoon, checking stuff out. If you can if it's not too busy, like trying some old arcade games, getting maybe like picking up some stuff in the vendor room, like it's not too bad. And it's not like the drive's not usually awful. This, for whatever reason, this Saturday traffic was just especially bad. But usually the drive out there is only like 45 minutes to an hour.
Well, anytime I've ever actually really gone out there, it's been relatively bad getting out there.
Yeah, normally it's not. On the weekends, it's usually not bad for me to get out there. There's usually some traffic because 76 just always has traffic. But this year it was like an hour and a half to get out there for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, not the end of the world, but still kind of sucked being in the car for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I also avoid the Schuylkill at all costs. So
I mean, it's even when there's traffic, it's usually still the most efficient way to get out there.
I'd rather take the blue route, whether or not.
Well, so in this case, the blue route was backed up too. Like there was something going on that traffic was bad, and it actually the exit to get on the 476 off of 76 was really bad. So I'm assuming there was an accident like right there that was just backing up both roads. So it happens. People drive like shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, too many games. Fun time. Worth checking out. As long as like they don't go crazy with ticket pricing, like it's worth the cost of an afternoon to go out there.
Yeah, well, somebody didn't tell me that they were going or asked me if I wanted to go at all. So
you can't walk.
I have a bike cart thing.
I thought you couldn't like go places though.
Who said who?
You made it sound like you couldn't leave the house.
I can't drive.
Okay, that's fair. I wasn't thinking about that.
I could do anything else I want. I just can't drive.
Oh no, you kept making it sound like you just couldn't leave the house. So I kind of took that as like you didn't want a chance leaving the house and like getting stuck somewhere, unable to walk.
No, I mean it's just I can't drive because my driving foot is in a cast.
I will tell you, you would have had a bad time with that cart with how crowded it was there.
People would have dealt with me. I would
have dealt with you by politely asking you to leave.
No, I would have ran over their ankles. I would have bumped into them. It's fine. I'm crippled. They would have dealt with the handicap.
I don't think that's how that works.
They would have been nice to me because I'm handicapped, and they have to be.
Well, I will let you know next year when I go.
No, you won't. You'll forget.
No, you're absolutely right. I will forget.
I know.
But it's a thought that counts.
Is it, though? Because you're not going to have the thought next year.
But I'm having the thought now, so it counts.
That doesn't really count because it doesn't help me next year.
That's next year's problem, though. Anyway, Rich.
True.
What did you think of Days of Future Past?
First of all, I did some Googleizing because, by the way, for anyone who's doing this watch through with me, Days of Future Past is not on Disney Plus anymore. Guess what it was on like 4 weeks ago? Disney Plus.
Is there a reason it got pulled? Because that's the only one, right?
I believe that one and the Deadpools. I don't think the Deadpools are on D Plus. I'm not really sure though. I don't know. I think it's just some sort of licensing issues or something. Who knows? I'm not really sure. Like I looked it up why it wasn't on there, and like I was seeing Reddit posts, like a whole Reddit thread from like 4 weeks ago. Like, yeah, it was just on there and it's not on there anymore. So I'm not really sure. Oh no, Deadpool 1 and 2 are both on D+. So yeah, that is literally the only one that's not on there.
Weird.
And you know what? I should check. I bet you it's on there now. I bet you it was just like a quick lapse of judgment or something. Are you fucking kidding me?
Is it on there now?
It's on there. It's on there. It wasn't on there on. I should call Disney and say, hey, what the hell?
You should have just been patient and watched it today.
That's not how that works. Unless was it taken off of D Plus and put onto Hulu?
So when when you sent that to me or to like the group chat on Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was, I looked and like the only place it was coming up were the rental pages, and I think I think it might have only been Amazon too.
Yeah.
So it was not on anything at the time.
Chase, what do you got?
He's got a good boy, is what he's got.
No, he's not.
But yeah, that is very annoying. It's a shame. It's a shame if I would have seen your message before you rented it. Like I could have just lended you the Blu-ray.
I had already rented it before I even said anything.
Ah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. But other than that, I'm so mad now that it's actually back on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and like even on Just Watch, like it was not there on Saturday or whatever, but it's there for Disney Plus now.
Yeah. I really should be like, you guys owe me a refund of $5.
It could have been like a weird licensing thing, or maybe like the video was broken or something.
Yeah, who knows? But Days of Future Past is the best X-Men movie, hands down. I think it's the best X-Men movie. It's a great story. It turns out that everything is connected, according to Days of Future Past. Both timelines are all the same timeline. But maybe the future timeline that we knew or the current day timeline that we knew from the original X-Men movies are no longer valid anymore. But yeah, it's because the
they
Wolverine
all still exist in my heart.
They do, but the Wolverine that we know that goes into his past mind is the Wolverine that we knew during all the X-Men movies. So it is all connected, except for maybe Origins. I don't think they ever really reference Origins. And they don't really reference the Wolverine, but that one was good enough to where it should still be canon. But yeah, I personally think it is the best X-Men movie. The acting was obviously great. Had great cast, had great story. Had some of the best moments in X-Men. Like they had one of the best moments in X-Men, which is why they copied it in the next X-Men movie with the Quicksilver moment, or the Quicksilver scene in the kitchen.
That was much better in Days of Future Past than in the other one.
Yeah. It has a lot of good in it. Like it does a lot of good for the X-Men universe or for the X-Men like story. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to really explain why I liked it, but I did. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a really good, entertaining, and fun movie. Like, there's no one point that stands out because like the whole movie kind of stands out. I do find it funny, like at the end when Magneto's like, if you let them have their way with me to Professor X, if you free them and let them have their way, I'm dead. And he's like, I know, and Magneto just flies away. So like Professor X was just like, I don't care. It is a really good story what goes on with Professor X, and it really feeds into the 70s, which is what this movie takes place is just after the Vietnam War. And the Paris Peace Treaties is the big event that happens during the movie, or the Peace Accords, right? That's what it is. I don't know. Drew, you're a history buff. You might know.
Accords sounds right.
It's every movie takes place in a different decade, right?
Yeah,
for the first class run.
Yeah, 60s, 70s, 80s is the next one, and then 90s is Dark Phoenix. Which is funny because they don't really age much between the 80s and 90s. Professor X doesn't fucking age at all from the 60s until the 90s.
I mean that is also like in the comics. If you look at Scott or Jean or Bobby or like any of the original X-Men that aren't Beast, and even some of the ones that showed up later, like some of your like New Mutants or Kitty Pryde, they were children when they were introduced, and now they're like adults. And they're like noticeably adults. And Professor X still looks exactly the fucking same. Same thing with Magneto. They both are just ageless.
Yeah. But I didn't remember when I don't remember a lot about it when I first saw it. I've only watched this movie once, besides this time, so now twice. And it's like I forgot that like, oh, Trask was like experimenting on mutants and killed a couple of the first class characters in general, not just he killed Banshee. He killed
Wait, they killed Banshee in that movie?
not in the movie, between
Oh,
movies.
right, yeah. But I don't
Between
remember
movies.
Banshee being dead. I thought he showed up again in the next one. But I guess not.
He shouldn't. You might be thinking Havoc.
So I know Havoc showed up again.
Havoc's in Days of Future Past, and I don't probably in the next one. But Banshee, they make mention because so Professor X's whole story is basically he's a drug addict. But he's using these drugs to no longer have his powers, primarily to no longer have his powers. Not as much to not have to be able to walk. It's more just to not have his powers.
It's just a happy accident that he can walk.
Yeah. Because he feels responsible for like the school, but in the time between First Class and Days of Future Past, the school opened up, and then the war happened, and mutants were brought in from the drafted, and he felt responsible for some of the mutants that died, I believe, during like the draft and whatnot. That he started using this to cope with it. He was using it to not have to hear people's thoughts to cope with his own feelings and everything else. And so like his story is all powerful, and Magneto explains to him at one point, he's like, their blood is on your hands, not just like it's Banshee, it's what's her name? The girl with the wings. I can't remember what her.
So I think she was supposed to be Pixie in the movie, but she's not Pixie.
I think they called her Pixie. I'm
double checking.
My brain is thinking they called her Pixie, but I also can't remember the actress's name because what's his name? What's his name's daughter?
It was Zoe Kravitz, right?
Yeah, Zoe Kravitz. And then they also mentioned Azazel, which I'm like, oh shit! Like even they included even part of the Hellfire Club were part of these mutants that were kidnapped and killed and experimented on. Which I like that they brought up Azazel at least, because Azazel like really didn't get any. Azazel's a lot cooler than they gave him in First Class. So yeah, it's a really good story on Professor X's part. And
so her name was Angel in it.
Angel.
So her name is actually Angel Salvador. So I think they just called her Angel.
Okay.
And they didn't have Angel like Warren Worthington. So.
No, Angel comes in. We get Angel during Apocalypse, but also there was an Angel in Last Stand.
I was going to say he was in Last Stand. I forgot that they introduced one later too.
Because he's Archangel in Apocalypse. He becomes one of the horsemen.
Man, it's funny how just wrong the makeup of the teams are in these movies. Like
it's funny how how they change things up so much, and this is supposed to be the same timeline, but Warren, who is Angel, who is always supposed to not want to be a mutant, and is ashamed of his mutant powers and abilities, is in one of the movies, and then as a teenager, maybe adult, is in another movie that takes place 20 years prior to the movie he was originally in. But that's also now an alternate timeline because they stopped those original movies from ever happening. But that doesn't mean he would have been born 20 years prior. It makes no sense.
But so I don't even mean that. I mean, so your First Class team, even removing like the weird Mystique stuff from it, that team was Beast, Banshee, who we were just talking about, Angel, Havoc,
Darwin
for 30 seconds, and I feel like there was one other person, wasn't there?
Beast.
I said Beast. Okay, no, so
no. I'm counting again because I think that was it. Yeah, because they had mistaken one. Yeah.
So Beast was one of the First Class. He is actually one of the original X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Banshee was introduced in Giant Size X-Men when the original X-Men were all thought to be dead, and Professor X put the new team together that had Wolverine and Storm and Nightcrawler and Banshee and some other characters on it. So, you know, he's like a second run X-Men character. Darwin and Angel from these movies were both introduced much later. Like, Darwin was introduced in the 2000s, and I think Angel was too, actually. Yeah, they were both introduced in the 2000s, and then Havoc was introduced in the 70s or 80s, I want to say. But, like, not as, like, necessarily an X-Man. Like, he was Scott's brother that maybe was an X-Man at some point, but, like, more often than not is either, like, an Avenger or X-Factor or, like, one of these other kind of, like, side teams. And then, like, the actual first class of X-Men get introduced in fucking Apocalypse 3 movies later.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, they needed... The first class that we know it is the X-Men that we have in the original X-Men movie. And they then, for the most part... I mean, we didn't have Beast in that, but for the most part, we have...
So the original lineup was Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman, and Angel. Okay. So we only had Cyclops and Jean Grey in that initial line in the 2000 movie.
I didn't know that, like, Wolverine wasn't actually considered a first class.
Wolverine didn't even exist in Marvel when X-Men debuted. Wolverine was introduced in the Incredible Hulk.
Wow. What do they not like Canadians or something that they didn't want to
so
Wolverine?
So it's funny. So X-Men timeline, original run of X-Men started in like 62-ish, let's say. Ran until 69 or 70. And then was canceled for a number of years. And they actually just kept reprinting old issues of X-Men. That team was basically all just American white, like, that's it. One girl, bunch of white guys. That was it.
Yeah, but for a team that was supposed to represent racism.
Exactly. But so then in 70-something, it was like mid to late 70s, they did the Giant Size X-Men, which was supposed to be like the relaunch of the X-Men. And that's where they wrote the story where the X-Men had all gone on a mission to the island of Krakoa and were missing except for Cyclops. Cyclops was the only one that got out and came back, and Professor X goes and puts a new team together. And that's the team that is the world-hopping team, because you get Storm from Africa, you get Nightcrawler from Germany-ish, I want to say, Wolverine from Canada. I forget... I want to say it was Thunderbird was the character's name, which he was supposed to be like an American Indian. And I always forget whether it was... So there are two characters that have very similar names, and they're brothers. And I always forget which one is which, and I can't remember the other one at the moment anyway. But that character they literally kill in his second issue. And he was dead for 40 years after that. So, like, did not last very fucking long. But, yeah, so it wasn't until over a decade after the X-Men started that they introduced any sort of race or geographical, like, differences to the team. Everyone was from just, like, America. So, yeah, like, you're, the team that you're most familiar with from, like, the cartoon, was actually, like, a team that, like, from a bunch of different decades. Because, like, you had Cyclops, Jean, and Beast were original X-Men. Wolverine and Storm were of that second era, and then Rogue and Gambit were both like 80s and 90s editions. And then Jubilee was like the newest character, who I think was introduced shortly before the show debuted. Mm-hmm. And she basically filled in what Kitty Pryde had been in the failed pilot, The Pride of the X-Men, from like 5 years prior. Mm. Yeah. It's weird how they make those teams. And then they did a comic book. They did 2 comic book series that were blue and gold. And one of them was just the team from the cartoon because the cartoon was popular.
Yeah, makes sense. But back to Days of Future Past. I think overall, like, the movie's just, it's solid. It's such a solid, very good freaking movie. It's I don't know. Yeah. Like, I don't really have any complaints about it. I enjoyed it. I think I liked it all entirely. It's just, I can't really complain about it. I liked it.
Good. I'm glad. That one was a good one. I remember, like, I've seen that one the most, I think. And probably most recently of, like, as far as, like, a rewatch goes. Mm-hmm. And, like, even the weird time travel stuff was, like, surprisingly good. Though I don't understand how Kitty is the character that can send his mind back.
Yeah, that's the weird part about it all. Like, how is it that Kitty can...
Yeah, the character that can run through walls can also psychically send your brain 50 years into the past.
And project her powers into him and make him be able to go back in time. Like, why isn't it Professor X able to do that? But I don't really know. I wonder if anybody's ever explained that. Like, why? Because was it actually like mental projection in the original Days of Future Past, or was it like actual time travel?
Yeah, so I'm assuming
I know in the cartoon it's actual time travel.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it's they used Kitty in the movie because in the original comic, Kitty is actually the one that gets her mind sent back, and it is the mind thing in the original. But Rachel Summers, the future child of maybe Scott and Jean, I think, does it because she is she is somehow related to Jean Grey. She is a super powerful telepath. And most of the other X-Men at that point are dead because it's that future where most mutants are dead. And yeah, Kitty gets sent back to basically do what Wolverine did, but without the get the band back together because Professor X is on fucking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weird choice, but they also obviously they had to come up with some way that James McAvoy could walk and have hair, right?
Wait. What was your question? I'm sorry, I was reading a Reddit trying to figure out if they can explain why Kitty could time travel.
I made a joke that in the original it was just like business as usual. Kitty just got put into her younger self's mind to try and help the X-Men stop Trask or Kelly or whoever was doing the bad shit. And then the movie went on that weird path with Xavier being addicted to drugs. And I said they had to find some way to keep James McAvoy walking and not bald.
Yeah, true. Well, they make him bald in Apocalypse. So
is it in Apocalypse, or does his head get shaved at the end of Days of Future Past?
No, it's in Apocalypse. He loses his hair during. So Apocalypse tries to take over Professor X's body or something like that in Apocalypse. And in that process, he loses his hair.
Right. I remember the scene, the promo scene even, where it's him in the wheelchair with the X-Men behind him and the doors closing, but it's him with the bald head.
Mm.
But I couldn't remember if that was at the end of Days of Future Past or at some point in Apocalypse.
Yeah, it happens during Apocalypse, during the end major sequence of Apocalypse. Nothing I can find online explains how Kitty Pryde can time travel, except people are saying, well, maybe she got a second mutation that she can phase through both time and space. So before she could phase through space, now she can phase through time. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it was just a nod to the comic by having Kitty be the one to do it, because Kitty is the character that did go back in time in the comic.
Yeah.
And that was never going to be what they did with the movies when they can instead use Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Time travel, though. It's always fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of comics, how was hanging out with Kevin Smith?
It was fun. The drive was fucking terrible because it was all the way up in Newark.
Yeah, in North Jersey, of course it's gonna.
But it was at NJ Pack Performance Arts Center. Yeah, NJ Performing Arts Center, which is right on the Wooder in Newark. So it's in the nicer part of Newark, at least. Lots of parking there, so it was super easy to get in and out of. And the place was kind of like the Kimmel Center, where it has the smaller theaters, but then the bigger ones. And this was one of the smaller ones. And yeah, it was 2.5 hours of him just basically shooting the shit. Because if you've ever seen even videos of his Q&As, he answers maybe 2 questions. He came out and he told an hour-long story about a trip to Target he had just taken that day. Which included a 30-minute tangent on why he went into a psychiatric facility, I guess last year.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh shit, it's been an hour. This is supposed to be a Q&A. There are 2 microphones up here. If y'all want to get in line, I will answer some questions. And then a bunch of people gets in line and he immediately goes, So some of y'all have never seen one of these before. Maybe like 2 of you should stay up here, but everyone else you can probably sit down. I am almost certainly not getting to any of you. And true to his word, I think he answered 2.5, maybe 3 questions over the course of another hour and a half. And even like his wrap up, 2:15, he's like, this is only supposed to be 2 hours, and he says this at 5:15. And it started at 3:15. I don't know where I got 2:15 from. So he's like, this is supposed to be 2 hours, so we're going to wrap it up. He then talks for another 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which hey, we got our money's worth, because like he tells some fun stories. Like he told somebody went up and had like a legitimate question about Netflix, but then made like a little like joke question whether or not Ben Affleck told him that the stairs in his house were dangerous, because famously Smith bought Ben Affleck's house in like the early 2000s and has lived there ever since. And I guess earlier this year, his wife fell on some stairs and like broke her hip.
Oof.
Yeah. So that joke question that wasn't really meant as a question, ended up being an hour-long response, to the point where like he finished up that question and then goes, "You had another question and I don't remember what it was." But like his answer included like explaining how they had just gotten 2 dogs, and how he thinks his wife may have unintentionally killed his last dog while he was away.
Oh no.
And then lied about it. All to get to the punchline of the story that when his wife fell and broke her hip, she had deadbolted their door so you couldn't get in. Like I guess there was no key to unlock the deadbolt. He was in Jersey at the time, and no one was home, so she had to call like the paramedics. And they tried to come up because the windows were open, just like come up the ladder into the room. And the dogs would not let the paramedics in because she adopted 2 German shepherds.
Oh boy.
So yeah, just fun times. And like he talked a bit about working on the Gem and the Holograms series that he was like paid to develop for Netflix, and then it was in that period where like Netflix was spending money on just fucking everything, leading into the period where Netflix realized they were not making money on all the shit they were producing, and that they had to be a little more strategic in what they produced. So like he got paid to write like a full season of a Gem and a Hologram show, and he like talked a little bit about it. It sounded like it would have actually been kind of a cool show. And then Netflix is just like, oh yeah, no, we can't do this. This is going to be like $30 million an episode. And he's like, you told me to write a show for $30 million an episode. Like, What do you mean you're not going to make it? But yeah, I saw him one other time in like 2006 or 7 in Philly. And it's always like fun because it's almost like going to stand up, but if the stand up is just making shit up as they go. Because like, have you guys ever been to like stand up shows?
Mm-hmm.
So like, they're generally like, they have their set, like they have their hour or whatever. And they may like throw in a couple things here and there. There may be like a little audience interaction and jokes there. But for the most part, like they're telling the jokes and the stories that like are part of their set.
Right.
And they're doing that on every stop, and they're refining it as they go. For something like this, like he can't really do that. Like he can hope that somebody asks a question for a story he wants to tell, but like there's no way to know what question somebody's going to ask.
Yeah.
And it's not like even though he goes on tangents, he never goes on tangents that aren't connected to the question in some way. Like, he'll start answering the question, and then he'll be like, but in order to understand why this happened, I have to tell you this other thing that's going to take a while. So let me explain why I went to a psychiatric hospital, so that I can explain to you the answer to your question.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Erica had gotten it for my birthday, so it was like a birthday gift to go up there.
Nice.
Yeah, we had intended to like get dinner too, but we did not know it was a 2-hour thing or that it would be a 2.5-hour thing. So by the time it got done, it was like 6:00. And we had to drive back home, and like the dogs had to go out and everything still because we had left at 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, well, no dinner tonight. We'll drive home. We'll pick up something on the way, and then we'll go take care of the dogs.
Yeah.
Had we realized like how long it was going to be, we probably would have been like like asked my mom if she could have come over and like let them out like mid-afternoon so that they would be okay a little bit later, and then we could have like stopped, gotten dinner, and then driven home.
Mm-hmm.
But things happen.
Yeah, it happens. Sometimes dogs just have to sit there and wait.
Yeah, I did find out from some of the questions that were asked though. So it's probably been close to a decade now that he has talked about working on a sequel to Mallrats. To the point where like at one point it was a series, like an 8-episode like Netflix show. It was then a movie. The whole cast from the original are up for doing it, and it turns out that Universal owns the rights to that movie, whereas Miramax owns the rights to all of his other movies.
Mm-hmm.
And Universal just doesn't care. Like, they don't really need to spend all that much money for it. And every time he asks them about it, they don't realize they own Mallrats. And then when he's like, well, we want to make this movie, they're just like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to do that. It's like, well, why not? Like, he's already got all the hard work done. Like, he just needs to film it, and then you can distribute it. And like, it's a movie about a mall and a bunch of people in their 50s at this point. There's not going to be any crazy stunts or special effects, I guarantee it. That's usually not what his movies are known for anyway.
Right.
So yeah, he's just like, yeah, as of right now, I would love to make it, but Universal doesn't give a shit. He was actually talking, I guess they work with somebody that does all the merchandising for like the Clerks and Dogma and basically all the stuff owned by Miramax. And I guess their contact there asked if he wanted to do anything for Mallrats, and he was told like, oh, it's like owned by Universal and we don't have like the rights to do it. And the guy's like, well, I work with Universal on other stuff like Jurassic Park merchandise. I'll call my contact and get the rights for it, and we'll make merchandise. And apparently, like, he calls them. The guy's like, oh yeah, I'll pull the stuff for you and get you like a contract like in a couple days. And then like, so the guy calls the Universal contact back, and he's like, yeah, no one knows that we own that. So like, let's just call it like $5,000 and like we'll call it a day. And apparently these licensing rights are usually like 70 or 80,000.
Yeah,
but no one knows about that they own it, and it's such an old movie that the paperwork is literally like paperwork in a box in like an office on another part of Los Angeles. That is just basically a big warehouse full of boxes of shit that was never digitized. So they're like, it will cost us more money to send somebody there to find the fucking contracts than to just give you a slip of paper saying you can do it, and you give us like $5,000.
Jeez.
Yeah. Which I'm like, damn, that's Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. I had a good time with it.
Nice.
I definitely recommend, like, if you ever see him like coming through like Philly, like, even if you're not like a big fan of his movies, like the Q&As are just fun because he's kind of unfiltered. Like, you can people ask him almost anything, and even when it has nothing to do with like personal stuff, he will still talk about like his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a good time. Glad I went.
Nice.
Good.
Yeah. That's all we have.
Yeah. Yeah. Short one, guys. I need 170 moves left in Mario Odyssey.
Is that what will get you to?
No, that's what I have left to get, not to get me to 999. I kind of low key don't want to have to get to 999 because of 2 moons. Technically 3, but one of them is a little bit more manageable.
Why?
So in New Donk City and in the beach level, there are 2 mini games. One of them in New Donk City is jump rope.
I was about to say, is one of them the jump rope one?
Yep, that's in New Donk City, and the other one is volleyball at the beach level. You need to get 100 jumps on jump rope, and you need to get 100 bounces in volleyball. I don't want to do that.
Those two don't sound like fun.
I don't want to do it. I don't, and there's a way to cheese the jump rope. I don't know if I can do that anymore because you need to have access to a different set of tiles that you can steal for the moon, or steal that you can take over. So I don't know if I can do it. I might be able to try, but there's no way to cheese the volleyball from what I'm seeing, and I don't want to do that. One thing people are saying is the easiest way to do volleyball is to set up multiplayer mode, throw your hat, and then just control your hat the entire time.
So what? So I assume, do you still need like the 3,000 point bits things to
Yeah.
hit it?
I'm not at 999 yet. But so it's 170 left, and that maxes us at what did I say the other day? Where is it at? Is it an announcements or it's schedule? Schedule. We're at 800, so we need we're almost at 800, so we're like at 790 or something like that, or like 790 something. So and where I have gotten so far 600 minutes or 600 and change minutes. So we're about 200-ish away from reaching 999.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't.
How much is 3,000?
It's about $30.
I kind of want to do it just so you have to do the jump rope and the volleyball.
So here's the thing. And I wouldn't do this. But here's the thing. Technically, I could just buy the rest of the moons that I need to get.
Oh, can you buy up to 999?
Every store has 100 available moons that you can buy.
That's so weird. I don't think I ever realized that.
Yes. Because the last 150-ish moons are just buying the moons. And so for some reason every store has 100. So there's technically more than 999 moons in Mario Odyssey. Somebody even came to stream and told me, like, there's like 2,100 moons. I'm like, nah, it maxes out 999. She's like, yeah, it maxes out at 999, but you can buy 100 moons from each world, and you should have to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that because there's no tracker for that. It maxes at 999. That's where we're ending. But yeah, there's like 100 moons in each world that you can go to and you can buy.
Oh.
And so technically, if I just had those last two, I could just buy those last two to reach 999 and not actually do those last two. And that still counts me as getting the 999 in total and gives me the 999 moon ending, technically.
Yeah, well, have you gotten any of like those super hard ones from like the darker side of the moon yet?
Yes, I did two of them. I did the boss rush and I did one of the others because I have a channel point redemption. If you play a sound alert, which costs 250 bits, that adds 6 moon total. Because it's 200 bits is 5 moons and another 50 is 1 moon. 6 moons total. The 6th moon or one of the moons has to be the hard moon. So I had 2 redemptions of that on Sunday, and so I did. Cool. I did the boss rush, and I did one of the hard moons, which like people say is probably the second hardest moon to get on the boss rush or on that moon, is because like the timing is super tight. It sucked. It took me so long to do. And I have to go back to that area to get the secret moon in that area.
Oh,
which sucks. But I thought about doing it. So what it is there's a section that you hit a PAL switch and the platform appears, and then you have to you need to perfectly hit every jump and dash and dive and everything to keep your momentum up to get to the end of this platform, and it's jumping up and it's diving and jumping up more platforms and diving and everything else to get to the other side of the platform before the platform disappears. If you mess up even a little bit, if you hit the wall when you're jumping, you lose your momentum, anything like, you're screwed. It is such a small frame, small margin of error in that. It sucked, and I ended up going for it and trying it. It took me probably a good 20 minutes. Still somehow ended the night having gotten 100 moons, but it took me like maybe, honestly, probably more than 20. Probably took me close to 45 minutes to get that moon. I don't remember though. So yeah, it's the 250 forces me to get at least one hard moon that's on the dark side. But it turns out there's a bunch of moons on the dark side that aren't actually on the dark side. They're all like the portrait moons that you see the portrait and then you go to a different area, different place on the map and get that moon. So like I have to I think there's really technically only 6 total moons on the dark side that are actually platformer moons. And there's 20.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
24 total on there, so I'd have to double check and reread it. I'm not really sure how. I can't remember how it goes, but I'm look. I want to get all 999. I want to try it. I don't want to do jump roping for 100 jumps, and I don't want to do volleyball for 100 volleys. Don't want to do it because if you fail, you have to start at 0, and it starts slow and then ramps up, and the volleyball starts super slow. And
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. While I think it would be funny to get you to that point just so that you had to do them, it wouldn't be fun for you or for anyone actually watching because you're going to fail a whole bunch and have to start it over.
No, yeah.
And yeah, like it'll be funny the first couple of times, and then it will quickly lose the funny, and you will just get frustrated because it's not fun. And yeah, and it's not. You're generally playing when I'm busy, so it's not like I'll be watching you play it. It would just be like it would be silly.
Yeah,
but you know what though? For what it's worth, like I am glad that whole thing actually seems to have gone really well.
Yeah. It went very, very well. Like it went very well.
It definitely seemed like more fun than just doing like your standard like subathon like stream for 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah, and I think so. Now I have to plan for next year, and I have to figure out something along the lines of this, where it's like I do more of the game, the more you pay me, basically, kind of thing. I have to figure that out and have I like this idea. I like this idea of a continual event going on every time I play. I just have to figure out. I just have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a shame because, like you said, like there aren't a lot of games that have so many the way Mario Odyssey did. Like you could do Korok seeds.
I could.
That would be miserable, though.
That would be miserable, and that would require too much of a guide.
Yeah, because like there's no real way to do that. Or hear me out. This would be a good excuse for you to do Tears of the Kingdom. Also, you could do a shrine one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Doing all the shrines in Breath of the Wild. But I've done that already. I've done all the shrines in Breath.
Oh, I didn't know you got all of them before.
Yeah. I 99.9% or 97%ed the game.
So I believe Tears of the Kingdom had shrines too. I don't know how many they had. They definitely had them though, because I remember doing them. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
So like that could be one. Like literally, like your first playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom would be, people donating to get you to do more and more shrines. Which also benefits the game because then you get, the hearts and stamina and everything.
See, I like the idea, but also at the same time, I wouldn't want my first playthrough to do that because then I would miss out on my first playthrough. If people don't donate enough, if people don't send in enough, I would be missing out because naturally I would be doing all of those.
That's fair. You do have a problem with not just doing everything.
Like Mario Odyssey, like any Mario game, I don't naturally get all the moves. I get them. I get enough to beat the game, and then I continue to play the game until a new game comes out. And then once that new game comes, but especially Mario Odyssey, like maybe older Mario games, if I were to go back and play them now, I would be like, oh, it's easy to get 120 moons or 120 stars. That's no problem. I got 900 and I got 780 or whatever fucking total. I don't know. I thought maybe I could work on maybe trying to figure out doing like the talk of 2% or something like that for a feature, but I don't know. We'll see. I've got a year. To figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. It's a shame. Like we've talked before, the other 3D Mario games just don't really align to it correctly unless you were to do like all of them.
Yeah, if I were to do all three, unfortunately, Mario Galaxies 2 isn't available for me to be able to play. Because I don't have a way to play a GameCube game on streams, and I don't have Galaxies 2. I did.
It's a Wii game.
I did have. Was Galaxies 2 a Wii game? Galaxies 2 was a Wii game.
Both Galaxies are a Wii game because the GameCube game was Sunshine.
But I don't. I don't have Galaxies. I did have Galaxies 2. I did.
So for what it's worth,
I let somebody borrow it, and I never got it back.
If it's something you want it to do, I have a copy of Galaxy 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it will play in your Wii U, assuming you still have one.
I do.
So, if that's a thing you were interested in doing, I think I might own a copy of. Well, I definitely do because I have the Switch for the other ones. But yeah, I have copies of like all the Mario games.
Mm-hmm.
On like original platforms as well. But yeah, so if you were going to do Galaxy and Galaxy 2, I can probably lend you the copy of Galaxy 2.
Yeah, it's an idea. I'd have to think about it, but that's next year. We'll figure it out. Have you guys gotten anything on your Steam sale? I know it's boring conversations, but we had a short episode, so I wanted to extend it a smidge.
I didn't even know it was going on.
Yep, summer Steam sale goes on until the 11th, next Thursday. I hate that it goes from Thursday to Thursday.
That is weird.
And not from Friday to Friday. Like it should go Friday to Friday, but like yeah, I got I already talked about my games over on Discord. I finally picked up Frostpunk, which is a game that I've wanted for a long time, and it's like $2 now on sale. It's a sim game where it's post-apocalyptic and everything's snow. I finally got Immortals Phoenix Rising, which is a game I've wanted to get ever since it came out, and I never got. Which is that Greek mythology open world game.
Right. I think I played the demo for that.
Yeah, I think it might have actually been. It was available on Epic. I think it was a free to play game on Epic, or not free to play, but like it was one of the free games on Epic or something. But again, it was like I think I spent less than $60, maybe less than $70 for everything. I got Callisto Protocol and Dead Space Remake, so those are going to be for October. And then because it was requested of me a while back, Star Ocean Second Story R, which I'll probably get into in August.
Nice.
Yeah. So I got some decent, and there's even still. I think I want to. I might get more. I might look through and see what else I can get. Apparently, I can't view my own wish list on Steam.
So the Steam wish lists have been like all sorts of fucked recently. The day the sale launched, they didn't work at all.
Weird.
Yeah. I have not gotten much off of it. I did buy the two Katamari remakes on there because they were both under like $5 and under $10. The second one was like $9 and the first one was like $5. But there was on GDQ there was a speedrun of the PS3 one, I want to say, so the third one, and I'm like, oh, that's right, these games are like mindless fun, and I didn't even know they were on sale. I'm just like, I wonder if they released any of these on Steam, forgetting that they had also done the remakes of them. And I'm like, oh, they did remakes and they're on sale. Why the fuck not?
Nice.
I do still have to kind of like, I want to look through and see if there's anything else that like I'd want to play on there. But I'm not 100% sure. I know Erica bought some like DLC for My Time at Sandrock. Because that game is finally, she bought that when it originally launched in the early access. It had zero controller support at the time, so it was unplayable on the Steam Deck. But they've since patched in controller support, and other than like a few of the non-game breaking things, it's compatible now. So she started that with some of the DLC she picked up. Yeah,
I've been making my way through Portia over on YouTube. And I really want to play Sandrock because Sandrock has more interesting characters to romance. Well, and honestly, in general, seems like more interesting game and whatnot. Like Portia, don't get me wrong, Portia's great. I'm having a blast playing Portia. But the romance options in Portia are very, very lame and not exciting and not interesting at all. And
that sounds about right.
And so like I looked at the character list between the two, and I'm like, I want to hurry up and get through Portia so that I can play Sandrock.
Do it. Just
I'm like,
do like a marathon video for Portia to finish it up.
I mean, the next video I have to record is going to be at least a 2-hour recording for a 1-week session of nothing going on because there's no holidays, and as far as I know, no special events. It really depends on what's happening in game and how much I can get done, how much I'm going to record. That game is so hard to record and do, and like it really. If I were to do Sandrock, it's probably going to end up being a stream game. I can't go ahead and add another stream game to my list of games I'm streaming right now. When I'm already playing so much, but it takes a week to get through. It takes 2 hours to get through a week in that game, and sometimes nothing happens in that week. And so I'm just grinding for a week, and I can't really not show that because of the way the game is built. Like there's progress. There is a little bit of progress, so it can be a little tough to edit and cut together. That's the one that I drag my feet on recording sometimes.
Yeah, that does seem like it could potentially be a lot.
Yeah. I originally was like, oh yeah, 3 days to a week for every recording session would be nice, but then I found out a week is 2 hours, and then there's certain parts of the game where like time stops. Like if you're in dungeons that are event dungeons, time stops, and so the equivalent of 3 hours might in your playtime. So like 3 hours might be 10 minutes is actually like I'm playing for like 20 minutes. So and it only takes up 3 hours of game time. So it's a little hard, and I ended up cutting out I cut out combat in this game. I'm like, the combat's boring, guys. I'm cutting this. Like I have to go do it, and I'll show you bits and pieces, but I'm not gonna be sitting here watching it. Combat's boring in this game.
Do you cut it entirely, or do you like speed it up so it just kind of zips by real quick without any like commentary?
It depends. Generally, I just cut it. It depends on like what's going on. Like if I'm like just fighting monsters out in the overworld to get items, I might show 1 or 2 fights. Like not even the full fight, just show me killing an enemy once or twice, and then cut the rest. If it's me in a dungeon, it's most likely just like, all right, if anything special happens in the dungeon, or if it's a scripted dungeon that like is like a world event dungeon, then I will show it and like cut through like the silence. But if it's just me running through a dungeon another time, or one of the X amount of times I have to do it to get gear or items or whatever, I literally I cut it out and show me fighting the final boss, and that's it. Because it's nothing changes. It's nothing new.
I mean, that's totally fair. Like, why keep a bunch of stuff in there if it's not like doing anything, right?
Yeah, it makes it hard to put the game together. Because like you don't always know when different in-game world events, like story-based events, are gonna pop up. And so like I should probably watch other Let's Plays of how people put together this game and see how they do it. If they go day by day or like a few days at a time, and if I have to plan out my playthroughs with these because now I'm getting to a point where I don't always have a quest to do, and I have a lot of supplies, so it's really just like, oh, go do this thing, go do that thing, and then that's the end of the day. So I'm like, all right, now I need to figure out about like the romance options and who should I romance. I originally was just going to be a scamp and not romance anybody, but there is a character in the game that I'm just like, I like this character. We vibe. I'm going to romance this character.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably a show, though.
That's a show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me mark the time real quick. Hang on.
Marked.
So, if you'd like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. Can't support us there with your dollars, though. You go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. We're on all of them. You can rate us, review us, subscribe to us. All of it helps. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline or at @1_quest on Instagram and Twitter. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo, and you can always send us an email to social@one-quest.com. And Rich, we were talking about your streaming a little bit already, but what's going on?
Twitch.tv/B_1. That's where I'm video game streaming Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. This Friday, I'm doing a bonus stream playing some Mario Kart to celebrate some of the subs that we got last month during my stream celebration. And next Friday, we'll be playing some Jackbox games. So you guys should definitely come check those out. I also have to do a Lego build at some point this month, and I'm still trying to figure out the spooky stream. And I promised a D&D stream, but I still have to put that together. So that'll be probably not this month. That'll probably be in the next month or two, a few months. That's going to take a little bit more planning than
just wing it.
Just winging it. No, it's going to take. I already know that if I were to run, what I'm gonna do is run a mod, like a pre-made thing. I just need to find people to play it. So that's all.
Role play.
Yep.
Drew plays in all my games. I need a break from Drew.
Oh, damn.
I've never had a. I don't mean this in a. I've never played D&D without Drew.
This is.
He's your crutch.
There's never been a D&D session I've had without Drew.
Really?
That's not true.
I mean, that's not true, but it's not. I had my Sunday game that was every Sunday, or Saturday game during the pandemic that was every Saturday that Drew wasn't in. But every game I had that I had ran or that I had been in outside of that, Drew has been a part of. If not initially, he's been added into it.
That's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
But you just said you need people. He's always ready, willing, and able to play.
Well,
I've Dungeons and Dragons.
I've discussed with a couple of streamers. We just have to figure out days and timing and whatnot. That's what it is.
Oh, Drew, you see what he's doing now? He's fucking he's part of a streamer group now.
Right.
I mean, I've been part of kind of streamer groups for like 3 years. Sure. I've been streaming for like 3 years.
Sure. But yeah, no. That's good. Yeah, go watch his stream. Somebody donate so he has to get all 999 moons in Mario Odyssey.
Can you look technically, and I think I even said it in my announcement for it. I said it somewhere. Maybe I said it on Twitter that technically the amount of moons that we would get gets me like 3 under 999. Here we go. 206 left. So if we were to do 3,000, it would set me to have to do 993. So technically, we would still need another 250 bits to have to get us to 999 if somebody does 3,000. So still, if we do 3,000, I might not have to do the 100.
Somebody just give him like 4,000 so that he has to get all of them.
Then that means I have to play some Mario Odyssey or not Mario Odyssey, Mario Galaxy as well afterwards.
That's your problem, not mine.
I like Galaxy.
But if you like to, we'll be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
See you.